Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
I'm Derek Master.
This is Scream Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week. We go over the horror news. And guys, we take a step back to the 90s for Scream 2, or as Derek calls it, Scream Dos.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to Scream 5, are you going to call it Scream Cinco?
Nope. That's a negative. That is a negative.
I hate Cinco.
Fine, Derek.
You know, technically, I think Scream 5, if you go by the font, is S5 Ream, because it has that, scruffy-eam. Yeah, that's how they do it. They have that weird thing, like Fantastic Four is Fanforstic.
Yeah, it's a choice.
It is.
I feel like Winona Ryder at the awards ceremony, like.
Excellent. At least you don't feel like Winona Ryder at Saks Fifths or something.
That's a deep cut right there.
I love Winona Ryder, but it was there, man. It was right there. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
I'm surviving. That's all you can ask for.
It's not about how often you get knocked down, Derek, but how many times you get back up. Words from Rocky Balboa and Mickey.
Yep.
Guys,
I can't take another hit.
Throw the damn towel! That's how I think that's how the Giants fans feel every game this season is just throw the damn towel!
Yeah. Dude, I know that this is a side tangent, but you brought it up, so I'm gonna go there. I loved that Lipton commercial with Rocky. He's I wish they'd stop ringing that bell. I can't concentrate. Here, Rock. Have a Lipton.
Have a brisk. Yep.
A brisk. There you go.
Claymation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brisk, baby. Used to do that. A lot of those. I think they had a Bogart one and stuff. It was weird. It's like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into Scream 5, hang on a second. He wanted to say hi. He fell over. It's a shame. I was doing this. Remy, if I put this on, our dog Remy, is not scared. But if I hold it like this and I go, he barks at it and hates it. It's so weird.
That is weird.
That's funny.
Well, I think
he can smell you.
He's had it out for Michael since you put that window cling of Michael on your front door.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I said he saw it and he's like, I recognize this son of a bitch.
Yeah. You've tormented me.
I know you.
Watching.
You're always just staring outside my door. So before we get into Scream 2 and all of its 1997 goodness, we do have to hit up some horror news. And it was actually kind of a struggle to find some this week. There's not a lot going on. Mm-hmm. I will start with this. So I went this weekend to the movies, and I saw Exorcist Believer. And we will talk about that movie at some point. Once you guys see it, we'll maybe do a review of it. I have definite thoughts about the movie. But
channeling my psychic powers. You're a non-believer.
Look,
but that's my psychic powers.
Derek put it the best. I mean, we kind of read the tea leaves pretty well when we were covering this movie. You definitely can see and feel some of those reshoots that we were talking about. But
really,
yeah, we'll talk about that movie for sure. But while I was there, I saw the trailer for Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. And I wanted to share with you guys.
I saw this trailer.
You saw the trailer, Lydia.
This looks weird.
I saw it.
I saw some of the trailer on Facebook, I think. I didn't actually watch the entire thing.
Where'd you see it, Lydia?
My friend tagged me actually because apparently I'm always ranting about how there needs to be more Thanksgiving horror movies.
Yeah. So, what are you guys' initial thoughts on Thanksgiving? It looks fun.
I think it looks good.
It's
I
a
want to see it.
Thanksgiving slasher. It's Eli
Yeah.
Roth.
I would need to finish the. Yeah, I need to finish it.
Well, here's the new poster.
I mean, I
for
think
it.
it looks entertaining and fun. I don't know if it looks like super scary, but like, you know,
No, it's a slasher
I mean,
movie.
Thanksgiving
What-
horror movie.
What do you guys think of this poster?
I am totally more interested in
I
the
love
advertisement.
I
Pet
love-
Cemetery Bloodlines.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
we'll talk about that eventually. But what do you think?
I mean,
I love the tagline.
Yes,
There will be no leftovers.
I absolutely love the tagline. I think it's so
Yes.
funny. There will be no
I loved it when I
leftovers.
saw
I'm like,
it. Yeah,
good. I like that.
it's great.
I mean, we'll give it a shot, right? I'm down.
I personally like when turkeys kill people, so that's
Yeah, this guy looks more like a pilgrim of some
He
kind.
does look like a
it.
pilgrim.
Does.
He kind of reminds me of V a little bit from V for Vendetta.
I could
kind
see
of
that.
vibe going on.
Yeah.
I was getting Lumberjack Man from that picture.
You get
Little
Lumberjack
bit.
Feeling
Man
it.
from anything.
Feeling it.
It's definitely gonna be way
Uh,
I
better
can't wait for the sequel.
with
Yeah.
I can't wait for the
Gabriel
sequel.
and in post-apocalypse.
If that's where they take the story, man, I'm down.
Oh
I just
my
want
goodness.
a writer credit.
Yeah, I bet you do. We got some casting news here. Christoph Waltz, of course, the amazing Academy Award-winning actor, has joined the cast of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein for Netflix.
Ooh.
So far, we have Mia Goth, Oscar Isaac, Andrew Garfield, and now Christoph Waltz. What a cast!
What? Yeah.
Yeah,
For a Netflix film?
yeah,
I better send that
it's
shit to
Guillermo,
the
man.
theaters first.
Yeah. Well, it might release to theaters. It might have a theatrical window, but yeah, I mean,
Would be
Are-
dumb not to.
you guys excited about this?
I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
that's a great cast.
I gotta see it.
I mean, Guillermo
And a
does
crazy story, so.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I love Guillermo, and I love Frankenstein so
Well, yeah.
much.
Yeah, Frankenstein's one of the OGs. An OG.
I love it.
Speaking of
Yep.
OGs, John Carpenter's Halloween and Halloween 4 and 5 all returned to theaters this month. So, for this 45th anniversary, we can go and find a theater playing John Carpenter's Halloween. How cool would that be to see John Carpenter's Halloween in the theaters?
That's so
That would be
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have to try to convince my wife to go to the movies and see that. So, is it maybe a distribution issue why they went with 1, 4, and 5?
I don't know. I don't know why. I think maybe because I would guess 4 and 5 because of you can have the Thorn trilogy. But yes, it looks like because of the partnership with Trancas International and Compass International. So I know
Okay.
Trancas owns all the Halloween rights, but Compass International released 4 and 5 before the rights went to Miramax, or technically Dimension. But yeah, I think that's probably why. But the original, of course, would be playing because of the 45th anniversary.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like that one, the second one really is what threw me off. Like number
Yeah,
3,
why not Halloween
I
2,
know why
right?
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, why not Halloween 2? I mean, that is a complete story, right? Halloween 1 and 2. Yeah, I'm excited to see. I would love to see Halloween on the big screen. Be excellent. Maybe we'll have to look into that, guys.
Yep.
And then finally, the last bit of horror news we have. This actually relates to what I started talking about the beginning of this horror news, which is Exorcist the Believer. So Exorcist Believer is tracking to make around $28 million. Not a huge amount, but an okay start for a $30 million movie. Except we have to remember that they paid $400 million for the rights to make these 3 movies. Let's not forget that.
Man.
But David Gordon Green was interviewed, and he basically said that he may not direct the remaining 2 films of this franchise. Meaning, basically saying he might get busy.
What?
He might get busy with a couple other projects. His intention is to start. He thinks he's going to be in the director's chair for Exorcist Deceiver, which comes out in 2025. But he doesn't quite know yet. He's definitely going to be writing and involved in them. Having seen Exorcist Believer, don't know if that's a bad thing.
I am sure that was not the original. I mean, I'm just going based on what we've talked about on the podcast and the brief conversation I had with you about this. They probably changed it's like a Ben Affleck thing, right? He was set up to do a whole series of Batman stuff, and then they're like,
Yeah, I mean, I think that he'll still direct the next one if he wants, but I wouldn't be surprised with the reception this movie's gotten. The movie is, as of this week, it has a 22 or 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, and like a 28% popcorn score, I think, and it's like pulling a C+ or cinema score, which is not good. I mean, that's bad. So, word of mouth. The weekend started off strong, but it looks like word of mouth kind of tanked it. I don't know what this movie was. We'll talk about it because I don't know who the movie was supposed to be made for. Is I think the biggest problem.
Interesting.
Once you guys see it, we'll talk about it because I mean, we have other Exorcist films to get through, but I kind of want to jump to this one because it's new and just talk about it because it's a direct sequel to the first movie. It ignores all the. It's literally Halloween 2018 with The Exorcist. Well, once you guys get a chance to see it, we'll check it out and we'll talk about it because I have a lot to say. And that wraps up this edition of Horror News. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of stuff. We might be getting more here soon. If they wrap up this actor strike soon, we should be getting more flowing out. There was a thing it didn't share, but we'll talk about it next week. So, guys, picture it. It's 1996. A movie just came out. A little movie came out in the theaters. And it opened at like number 2 or number 3. And then for the next several weekends, it was number 1. And it stayed in the top 10 of the box office for something like 14 weeks. And it crossed $100 million. A little slasher movie that could, called Wes Craven's Scream. So Scream comes out, blows the doors off the genre, completely redefines it. Horror was dead at this point. And Scream comes out, makes buku bucks, great reviews. So what does the Weinsteins do? What do? They say, we got to do a sequel. Let's fast track that shit. And so, released in 1997, less than a year after Scream was released, we have Scream 2. So you hear about this, you hear the whisperings. They're making a sequel to Scream. I remember this vividly. Guys, what are your thoughts on, what are your recollections on
cliffhanger?
Yeah.
What's your what are your memories of Scream 2? Derek, you picked this, so you start.
Yep. Let's see, 1997. I would have been in 8th grade, so I don't think I could have seen this movie in theaters by myself at that
No.
point.
No.
I probably saw it so I actually saw the original when it came out on VHS back in the day. So I imagine that something like that, happened with this as well. But I remember that I was in love with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So when Sarah Michelle Gellar was in this, I was like, yeah! And then she died, and I was like, no! But yeah, man, it was a wild ride, and I definitely remember the VHS cover.
Oh, yeah. Lydia.
She was like 3.
Is this your
4.
first time watching it?
I was like 4. No, it's not my first time watching it. I was pretty young when this came out. I was like 4.
I was joking, but I got that right.
Yeah, and like I said, I think I watched the first one when I was like 6, and then was extremely terrified of Scream. So I did not watch the second one until I was much older, probably like in middle school or high school on TV with my mom. I think like a marathon or something was on probably. So that's my memory. I didn't remember it like scene for scene, but I know that I'd seen it before, so it was kind of like a new watch, but kind of like I knew how it was going to end at the same time.
You didn't know the nuance of it. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen this movie a billion times. When the first Scream came out and was a huge hit, like we talked about when we reviewed it, I watched the movie and it blew me away and I loved it. So when I heard they were making Scream 2, I wanted to see it so bad. But I didn't get a chance to see this in the theater. I had to wait. So I waited for the VHS. And I remember purposely avoiding spoilers. There's somebody on my bus talking about the ending. I was like, hey, know your role and shut your mouth. I don't want to know what's going on here. No. So I was avoiding spoilers for it. And then as soon as it came out on VHS, I think we just bought it because we already owned Scream, and so watched it. Scary, great. It's everything Scream is times 2 because it's the second one. But loved it. I remember this is the Scream 2 is a super nostalgic movie for me as well, just like the first one, but even more so because I remember watching this a lot on VHS because it was the newest one. So I remember watching this a lot, and like I can picture sitting in my mom's living room and where like the TV was situated, and there was like we had the front window was behind the couch, and I always kind of looked out there to see if the fucking Ghostface was chilling in the bushes or something. So yeah, I've lived with this one for a while, and I just got the 4K of it this year, and it's the best it's ever looked. So it's fantastic. So that was what I watched this week. So guys, where do you want to start? And Derek, I know you're going to say the beginning.
Actually, I want to talk about like how obvious this version like telegraphed who the killer was or potential tandem, because they like threw it right in your face. You know what I mean?
They do if you already have seen it, because that's the thing. You know who the killers are, so those red herrings stand out way more than they do. I mean, Scream, the red herrings are in your face.
I mean, they're super subtle, but like in this one, like the other reporter, right, who turns out to be the mother of Billy Loomis. Like she was a very prominent figure for like no reason. You know what I mean? Through most of this, it felt. Well, I mean, she was supposed to be like or trying to be a rival of Gail Weathers.
No, there's a reason for that. The reason is that the entire third act of this movie was rewritten because the script leaked online.
For real?
For real. This was the
first.
Okay,
well, what was the original?
The original killers.
Go ahead with this. Blow my mind.
The original killers were Derek and Hallie, the roommate. They were the original killers. Yes, that was the written ending. It leaked online. So they rewrote the ending, and then when they rewrote the ending, they wrote a bunch of endings. So they wrote a bunch of fake scripts. So there's one where Dewey is a killer. There's one where Sydney dies. There's all these other ones, but the original ending was Derek and Hallie were the killers.
So, question, and that's the third act that they rewrote. So, like everything up to the third act was original.
Somewhat. They basically they had to retrofit certain things to make it track, right? So that means that certain people
maybe
died.
That's why. Yeah,
certain
like
people
Hallie, she
later.
dies. She gets her.
Yeah, so Hallie dies in that scene in the scene where she dies. She just disappeared, I think, in the original version. And then, or I don't know, I haven't read that whole draft. I just know of what the knowledge I know of the situation. But this was a casualty of this was one of the very first internet script leaks.
Wow.
So when Scream 3 gets made, they write the script on red paper with black lettering, so it was impossible to photocopy.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I bet, hindsight, they probably wish that was the leaked fake script, but either way.
Yeah.
So and Lydia, I want your opinion about this because Jamie knows too much about this movie to... Did you feel like, or am I just alone in this, that like specifically like her character, she just felt like she was a prominent figure for like not a great compelling reason?
Oh,
maybe I'm alone in this.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it because I think there's just all these new characters and like everyone feels like a suspect.
They're all red herrings. Yeah, that's the thing. So Debbie Salt was written to be a red herring and to be a very prominent red herring. And then they're like, well, she's got to be the fucking killer, I guess. So she is Mrs. Loomis. But Mickey
so maybe that's why it
Mickey
felt that way, because
also a very obvious red herring, but made sense. So they
I wonder what the motive would have been for the roommate.
I think it was something along the lines of, I don't remember exactly what it was, what the motive was. I think it was something to do with...
I could guess the motive. Just the way that she wanted to be in the sorority and the way the sorority sisters treated her compared to the way they treated Nev Campbell's character. Like, they really wanted her, but the other one was just kind of a... So I could have seen where, like, a jealousy thing would have developed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, she could have been the one that's, like, kind of the manipulated one. Maybe.
Yeah.
Of, like, well, let's just make her super jealous. That way she'll help me kill who I want to kill, like, for whatever reason that he had, That's interesting.
And Jamie, I got something for you. Going back to, like, when we first saw this, I remember the commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the commercial that made you think that Dewey could be a suspect. And it was the cafe scene where him and Randy are like who could it be? And Randy's like, oh, it can't be me. It can't be the other guy because Mickey, because if he's a suspect, I'm a suspect. And Dewey's like, well, maybe you are a suspect. Well, if I'm a suspect, you're a suspect. You're right. Let's move on.
Yeah, which is a
it's
great
the way
joke.
he said it. Yeah, that I love that commercial though. I remember it very vividly.
That's funny.
Yeah. Let's start to dive into the. Let's talk about the opening of this movie, though. Let's talk about the cold open kills.
Cold open,
because they're pretty high tier goat. I think. Like, what a great setting. What a great setting for the opening of the idea that they embraced Scream being turned into a movie called Stab is fucking brilliant. It's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And then that movie theater, what do you guys think of that whole set, like the set piece, the whole atmosphere of it, everything?
but if you, I'll stop
Oh,
if you
go
want.
ahead. Go ahead.
All right, so I actually think this is like a super brilliant way to to have a killing like this, right? Because it's in a college town, so the demographic that's going to be at this movie, like chaos is going to be fucking everywhere. So the fact that there are frat boys and like crazy people like running around and scream mess and stuff like that, just is, it's going to be more amped up on a college campus than it would be, I think, traditionally. There's only been a couple movies I've ever been to that like had an atmosphere like that. So like it even adds a little bit more realism to the way these characters die. I think is great.
Yeah. What do you think of this setting, Lydia?
The theater, I think it's so crazy, like how hyped everybody is, because I've never seen a theater that's like that hyped, and it's kind of like a reflection of like, this is what you look like, and these are like true crimes that have happened to people that are, it's like,
Hmm.
it's, there's something so disturbing just about that alone, about
Turning
how
the mirror.
excited everyone
Yeah,
is.
turning the mirror
Yes.
to yourself. Yeah, to the audience.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm about to get real deep in the. Go ahead, Jamie. You had a point.
Oh, I was just gonna say, there's only been a handful of movies that I've been to that were that rowdy. The Phantom Menace was fucking
Oh.
wild.
Yeah.
The Phantom Menace was wild, and I remember what was another? There was another one where was it when I went to see Attack of the Clones? It wasn't that wild, but there were definitely just some folks. Like there was a guy dressed as Chewbacca, and I was like, what the? And me and Morecraft are wearing like fucking t-shirts. But I would love to go see a movie for the second time in a setting like that. The first time, it would annoy the shit out of me because
Yeah.
I like to watch movies. When I went and saw Exorcist
Yeah.
Believer this weekend, there was a woman that was sitting right here, back into the left. Some JFK humor for you. But she's sitting here, and throughout the entire previews, up until the movie started, she's just like, and I'm like, not whispering, like talking. And I would go, and finally I gave him a couple of those. The movie started, and she's doing it again, and I finally went like that, and then after that they were quiet. But I made it known. I was about to turn around and say, could you please be quiet? But I didn't want to have to deal with that confrontation. So instead, I just did it with a look and a sigh. Like, are you getting the point that you're fucking annoying? Good God. She didn't ruin the movie, though. The movie did that itself. Ha! What were you going to say, Derek?
So I'm gonna go real deep here for just 1 second, okay?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So this was at the birth of like, you know, where the internet was headed, right? Because we got the leaked script, right? And that spoiled it for a bunch of people. Like just the way society is right now, and the way that like true crime and the way that everybody's lives are just like lived online, it's kind of like a precursor to what that would have, like that turned, you know, like how life actually turned out to be, and in a little bit of a way. Also, Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles was the first one I went to where it was like crazy. And there were
Oh, the
like, I
original?
remember vivid. Yeah, I remember going to the movie theater and someone was walking around, and I actually knew the guy because my mom was friends with this lady and we would go over to her house, and her son, it was his friend. But he was walking around in a Shredder outfit, and he looked
That would have
really
been
good.
fucking legit.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, I was like, it's Shredder. Mom, it's Shredder.
When I
It
went and
was
saw
great.
Freddy's
I
Dead,
remember that.
there was a Freddy at the theater. Just waiting at the theater.
Nice,
And
yeah.
I got to see him and shake his hand.
Nice.
Yeah, so these kills, like, so we have this couple. Jada Pinkett Smith, by the way, is there. And if you say anything, Will Smith's going to slap the shit out of you, so you better watch it.
Maureen, yeah, you better watch it. I got my door locked. Security's
Yeah, and
on.
then Omar Epps. And they're a couple. And they got free tickets to stab, which I wonder why. And they show up, and, you know, they're bickering and whatnot, and he separates off to go to the bathroom. What do you guys think of his death? Phil Stevens' death?
Lydia?
It was like, it's one of those where you're like, why did you press your head up against the wall to listen to whatever is going on?
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, it was shocking though. Other than when you're just like, don't do that.
yeah. It's a great kill.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah,
Like, because
I agree
it
with
does
that.
come
It
out,
is a
like, it
pretty
is
good kill.
shocking. You like, because you're kind of waiting
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
You're not expecting it.
Yeah, you're not expecting to go through the side of his head, and then when it does, you're like, oh, okay. And the best part is that there's like two guys at the urinals dressed as Ghostface, and our Ghostface is there, so it's like perfect because there's so many Ghostface. So he goes
Mhm.
back wearing our Ghostface goes back wearing his jacket, and man, when when he stabs her in the gut, it's brutal.
yeah,
Because
Mm-hmm.
like the look of like uh betrayal on her face when she gets stabbed, mixed with the shock, is great. And then she gets stabbed like fucking 20 more times. He fucks her
yeah.
up.
Yep.
I remember
What
that
do you guys?
freaked me out pretty bad when I first saw
Well,
it.
when she's up on the in front of the screen is actually pretty disturbing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. And you know, I don't want to bring ill will on anybody, but I'm shocked that we haven't had something like that
Well,
actually
we have.
happen.
We have. We've had worse. You know,
Well,
with
we have
multiple
had
people.
worse, but like that is a level. Well, yeah, like I remember some, but like that is a like connected to like a series of murders. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's kind of unique. But anyway,
Yeah, it's a great cold open because it sets everything up well, and starts us off with a bang. We're back into this world. Also, I love the scream stuff, the watching stab. First of all, I love that he put that it was supposedly
Yeah.
directed by Robert Rodriguez, and the way that Wes frames the stab stuff is so funny because it's like so over the top cheesy. I love it so much.
oh my
It
God,
is.
dude,
It's so
Luke
fun.
Wilson,
Oh God,
Luke Wilson as Billy, man.
way the
That
cookie crumbles.
That was
yeah,
so funny.
The
it's too
opening,
good.
Heather Graham is so funny when she's like, "I just met you and I dislike you already."
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, it's so great. In the way like he has him like showing up in the shit like be in like the lightning flashes and it's storming of course and just everything's dramatic to the 10th, whereas Wes actually directs these movies pulled back, you know what I mean, so they feel real when the shit's going down, but it's all style for stab. I love it so much. It's so funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is fun.
So we're reintroduced to Sydney, who is living on Windsor College, and we're introduced to her with a brand new device that just came out, the caller ID.
Caller ID.
Love it so much. That just takes me all the way back. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it does.
so she gets that call. She's like, "Oh, it's a federal crime." Blah blah blah, and he's like, "Shit!" and hangs up real fast. And she immediately sees the news that these two kids were murdered while at the premiere of Stab. So she finds Randy, and we get a super fun scene of Randy in the classroom in film class. What do you guys think of this bit in Randy's reintroduction?
It's so fun.
I enjoyed their conversation, their banter, and man, like the star, like I don't know. At the time, I actually think Joshua Jackson was like he could have been one of the main characters. Like the sprinkling of these like higher tier people in this movie is great.
Yeah, so he had
But yeah,
not
this
done
film class is great.
Dawson's Creek yet. Joshua Jackson.
So he just
At this
done
point,
Mighty Ducks.
he's just Charlie Conway. Yeah.
So I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you know, it's pretty good.
So in this scene, we're introduced to Mickey, the a fellow film student. It's kind of a rival of Randy's. And Sarah Michelle Gellar, Cece, is introduced in this scene as well, and we get some funny dialogue about sequels never being as good as the original. I do like when he says, when he's like, T2, you have a hard-on for Cameron. A big one.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, the scene where Randy and her are talking, they're doing the walk and talk, and he's just for no reason speaking with a British accent.
Well, I mean, he's just such a quirky guy, like a character.
Jamie Kennedy just did that for that take. That wasn't even in the script. He just did it for that take. And Nev Campbell just stayed in character, and they just kept filming it, but it fits.
Yeah.
That would have been a good one, too.
Oh, man.
It's relatable. I feel like I do that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, we do. Derek drops into an amazing British accent from time to time.
I would not. That's not the word I would use, but I am flattered that you think so.
Yeah, so that's great. Then we're introduced to her. We see Derek, her boyfriend. We meet him.
Derek. Yep.
This is great stuff too. I love that too. Like you can see Randy's jealousy still because he still has a crush on Sid.
Oh.
Like an unrequited love.
Well, he even says as much whenever he's like going out to meet her.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like I'd let the geek get the girl.
Yeah, exactly. So when he does this whole bit like, do you have anything to get us back to our quasi happy existence? And he's like, well, I might just. Really? What is it? He kisses her and he's just like devastated. Get a room.
Yeah, so annoyed. Like, bastard.
Yeah. Ugh. First of all, that's not going to help me at all.
Yeah.
And then we're introduced to those. By the way, the sorority girls. You know who? I mean, Rebecca Gay Harding and Portia de Rossi. They're so funny in this small little role they have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite exchange is when when they're at the party and she says, "Hi, Sydney," and I really mean that. Hi.
Yeah. I love that. That's so funny.
Such a good fucking little.
No, I really mean that. Hi.
Yes, so good. I love that so much.
It's like, oh, thanks. Glad you mean it.
Yeah. So we're reintroduced to Sydney, because we were introduced to reintroduced to Gail
Weathers
after we get this bit with we're introduced to, we're properly introduced to Mickey as part of the gang and stuff like that. So we have our little group of friends, and they're watching the press conference, and we see Gail interviewing the sheriff, which, by the way, that is David Arquette's father playing the sheriff, Louis Arquette.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
So we're introduced to Gail in her new haircut. She has a new haircut in every one of these. In the third one, it's a fucking choice of a haircut. But in this one, her hair looks great, right? She has the streaks.
Yeah.
90s
Whatever.
chic.
Courtney
So
Cox
90s.
up until she got the plastic surgery. I mean, very beautiful lady. So yeah. It was very. You're right. It was so 1997.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect 97. Love it.
Yep.
She's got short hair too. She's like kind of, looks like a badass. So we get an interaction with Gail and Sid, finally.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's like, be kind to her. She saved our lives and stuff. And then she ambushes her with Cotton Weary, who we only met in news footage in the original movie.
Yep.
Played by Lee Schreiber. What do you guys think of this bit when she just ambushes her?
Classic Gail.
Well, Boy, you got him at the right time there, Lydia.
Oh, I killed Jamie. Oh no. Wrong pipe.
Wrong pipe.
Oh,
Yeah,
shoot.
classic Gail. That Gail Weathers. She's such a card.
Yeah.
Dude,
Because you expect
But-
her to be not so Gale because now she has become friends with everyone, you think, because they all
Yeah,
survived this
and-
together.
Yeah, they survived it together. She should be a changed person,
Yeah.
but she's not yet. And she literally wrote the book that the movie's based off of, so she's making money off that, and she's trying to make more money off the Cotton Weary thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have poor Cotton, who does want, I mean, he is fame hungry, but he's also trusting that Gale is on the up and up here and wanting to have this
Yeah.
interaction with Sydney and has no idea that he's ambushing her. He literally has no idea.
Well, and the unprocessed feelings that Sydney has for Cotton, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, he was actually having an affair with her mom. Like, that was true. But, you know, then, I mean, she thought for a long period of time that he had done this to her mom. So, I mean, that's a lot to just be like, it's in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah. Threw it all out
I'd
there.
have punched her too, right in the face.
Did you get that on film? Yeah, I got that on
He's
film.
like, yeah, I got that on film.
Dude,
Yeah.
I love her camera guy. He is
Kenny-
great
yeah,
in this.
The
He
new
is
camera
great.
guy is so funny. Yeah.
Kenny
when he
is
finds
good.
out-
I like his
when he-
name's like Joel or something.
His name's Joel. Kenny was the original
Yeah.
cameraman. But
Yeah.
I love when he finds out about Kenny. He's like,
Yeah.
you know, you said he was good at. He wasn't. You know, I made that up. Oh, his throat was slit. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that little detail.
Yeah. so
Yeah,
great.
I love these. Like, I love when you just have like a rational character that just like is actually, you know, trying to live. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Well, and I
guys-
love when he's introduced and she was like, you know, what are your qualifications? He was like, man, I did this thing for bingo. I almost won an award for that one.
Mhm.
He was like, buddy,
Yeah.
you're swimming with sharks.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what you're dealing with.
Better get a life preserver.
The they were reintroduced to Dewey Riley, and guys, I love Dewey in this movie. This is my favorite Dewey performance of the whole franchise.
Yeah.
Because he's scarred, and he's injured, but his protective instincts are so strong that he comes back. He goes there specifically to protect Sydney and her friends because he lost his sister, so she
Yeah.
is his sister. I love that.
Yeah, you know, and like, because his sister's name was
Tatum.
something. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tatum. And it seemed like her and Sydney were like friends for years. So like,
Yeah.
he probably grew up with Sydney. He probably does consider her a sister figure, especially since his is gone now. And that's a strong connection. It can be.
Yeah, and he's also very funny in this movie. So I love
He
the
is.
confrontation. Like the scene with he and Sydney is great because it's like brings the
Mhm.
emotion and he's basically there to protect her. And then the scene with he and Gail is fucking hilarious because he's talking about
All the
the
scenes
shit-
with him and Gail.
But the first one when he's talking about all the shit she talked about him in the book, and he's just
Yeah.
like
Page
Page
42.
so good. How do you know that I don't use
He knows
this
that.
as an ability? Yeah, it's so funny. And then he says,
yes.
Deputy Riley oozed his way. If you don't mind me, I've got some oozing
Yeah.
to do. He says, by the way, nice streaks.
Yeah, and also her acting in this is so good because she looks at him like she really just cannot help but love him. Like
Right.
it's so sweet the way she looks at him, like when he is actually like just laying into her with all these facts and like mean things, and she's just like,
You're a puppy
like-
dog, I can tell.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, it's adorable.
Yeah, it's great. So we have this. We have the next big set pieces. We're at like a sorority party held by the the old sorority sisters. And guys, in this scene, Matthew Lillard is in the background.
What?
Is he?
He's in the background. He showed up on set to visit, and Wes threw him in the background. So he's in the
the
background.
heck?
Of one of the scenes.
What?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Not as Stu, but just
Yeah, just as a
yeah.
random extra.
Yeah. So Derek, I'm going to let you talk about this next part because this was a devastating moment in your life as a young child.
It was.
The death of Cece.
Yeah, I mean, she's the designated driver or pickup person because they drink responsible at their in their sorority. She does all the right things, man. She gets the call, it's coming in from inside the house, and she's freaked out. She tries to go outside, but she can't get reception. I would have just been like, I'll go to the next sorority house over and make that phone call, as opposed to go back in that house.
But to be fair,
but she makes that mistake, and then
but to be fair to her, the sorority sister does pop in, and basically
she does.
She
to
makes,
throw us
makes
off.
her think that's what I was hearing is her.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're setting up the story where two people have already died, when she goes out on the porch to try to make that call and she loses connection, like, just go to the next house. But either way, so she goes back inside, and then, the cat and mouse all the way up to the top of the roof, and then he stabs her and throws her off. What an a-hole.
It's a great chase scene. It's a great set piece.
It is a good chase scene. Broke my heart,
Leah?
man.
Yeah, I agree. What an a-hole.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty suspenseful. It definitely brings me back to the first movie. Just this like unsuspecting girl, just like in the house by herself, and you're like, no.
Yeah,
I
except
hate
she
that
doesn't
because
escape.
sometimes I'm an unsuspecting girl in a house alone.
Yeah,
It's freaky.
Yeah, it's good, and I think it's a good set piece the way it sets up, especially setting up the attack on Sydney at the sorority house, because everybody leaves basically because of this body. So this whole situation is going on, and it isolates Sydney alone because she answers a phone call, and we get the first confrontation between Sydney and Ghostface.
Mm-hmm.
A really good one. A really good chase scene. And it sets us up perfectly because Derek runs into the house after. And when Dewey goes in to save him, he's laying on the ground with just a cut in his arm. And we get a bunch of red herring shit in the hospital. Especially him saying, because Dewey suspects the shit out of him. Dewey suspects the shit out of him.
For good reason.
Yeah, because
So is that entire... Go ahead, sorry.
Well, because he said, the person that is doing these is probably somebody that you already know. And that you have known.
Mm-hmm.
And so, last time it was literally your boyfriend, so he's like, I think it's probably him.
Yeah. And the fact that he did not get severely hurt.
Just a cut in the arm. Yeah.
With,
No nerve damage.
yeah.
No.
You're like, oh, it's definitely him. He's got something to do with it.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid mystery.
Why didn't he just get killed? Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah. And he's so sketchy. There's something about him. You're like,
Yep. What's funny is he seems sketchy, but then when you find out that he's not, he's kind of actually really sweet, and you're like, I kind of feel bad for fucking suspecting that guy and being mean to him.
Definitely.
His only crime was loving a girl.
Sometimes that's enough, man. So I've got a question for you. Is the entire original script available to read?
I don't know if it is. I think there's certain drafts that are available to read.
Because that would be so cool to see what that original storyline looked like. More than anything, I want to see what scenes, because this would have been a really good scene to have led to him being one of the killers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So
I think they rewrote bits of it, obviously, because they were rewriting pages on
yeah.
So in order to make everything track. But yeah, there's also a really great bit here in the hospital where Mickey is planting seeds of doubt in Sydney's mind about Derek.
Yep.
Where he's basically saying, hey, he was doing this, and it comes off as at first kind of like, oh, Mickey is consoling her. But then when you realize that he's a killer, you realize that he was literally planting those seeds of doubt. So that way,
Baiting her.
It would,
yeah
exactly. So what do you guys want to talk about next? Do you want to talk about the...
I want to talk about Timothy, man.
Timothy Oliphant?
Because we've only we've only talked a little bit about his character. He's he turns out to be one of the killers, and apparently he was an active serial killer that was recruited by Mrs. Loomis. But
which I think is a little crazy. I'll just say.
Yeah, that's a little crazy for sure. But man, he's got a look about him. He always looks like the bad guy, except for the movies he's the good guy in. Then he's like got that edgy feel to him. But I feel like a lot of movies that he plays in, he steals a lot of scenes. I think he's a really good actor. He's got presence about him for sure.
Oh, he's great. That thing you were describing at the beginning is acting. When he is bad and he looks bad, and then when he's good, he looks good.
No. I meant like
that's called
That's
range.
not what I meant. That's not what I said. You mean people?
No, he is great. I agree. He's really good.
Jake actually said the same thing about Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah.
Like he was like, I don't like that guy, and I was like, Vern.
Yeah. What do you got against Stand By Me?
Yeah, I was like, freaking love that guy.
Yeah, so there's this whole subplot about Sydney being in a play. Which gives us one of the coolest set pieces in the movie, where we don't know if she's actually seeing Ghostface or if Ghostface is actually there when they're rehearsing. What do you guys think of that bit?
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I liked seeing her on stage, acting out this thing, and then it just gets kind of intense because you're like, oh shit, what's happening? But the stage element is kind of cool.
Yeah, especially since it comes back in the third act. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that that doubt. I mean, and she even has the doubt. Did she see him? Did she not? Is she imagining it because of her fear? That was a really great idea.
And then, of course, when Derek shows up to pick her up, Mickey's supposed to be the one escorting her back, but he switched her. Yeah. So it's so it creates that doubt some more. Guys, we just got to talk about it. It's time. It's time to talk about Randy's death.
Lame.
Yeah, it's a great set piece. The whole setup of it
is
awesome.
And
go ahead, tell me your
if you're so if you're going by what is revealed later, that was actually Mrs. Loomis, because she says I had to mess him up because he was talking bad about my boy.
Yeah.
Which she doesn't look that imposing.
Well, she does
to just snatch somebody
out of him, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the way that he gets snatched, but no, it's really great, because the killer is amping him up and getting super personal, and he's like, fuck you, and going crazy, and then his back is turned
up.
Yeah,
the best is that there's this open field. Everybody has cell phones, which now would be even worse. But everybody has cell phones, so they're each trying to race these cell phones to see if that's the killer. And then Randy gets pulled into the news van.
And I didn't really want him to die. I mean, his death makes sense, but you hope that the originals, the people that survived the first time, survive the second time, but you know,
Yeah, he needed to die to
it
up
was
the
his
stakes.
time.
He
Yeah.
needed to die to up the stakes. But I remember being a kid, and Randy was one of my favorite characters because he was kind of a surrogate for us. He was the horror geek.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he knew the rules of these things,
Yep.
so he was a surrogate for us. And so when he died, I remember being devastated. So I was like, no, why? And then I'm like mad for a few minutes. Like, man, did they really? Maybe he's all right. And then we see him in the thing all bloody, and I was like, nope, he's dead. he's dead.
Yeah.
Dead. He's
Yep.
gone.
He could have survived that. You don't know.
So while this is going on, we also start to piece together a theory, a motive. The killer is making a sequel, and he's using names of the victims. So Maureen Evans, Maureen Prescott, Phil Stevens, the boyfriend.
Steven, what's his face?
And then C.C. Cooper is actually Casey Becker. And so we realize that, the cops are figuring this out. So after Randy's death, everybody is obviously shook. And Gail and Dewey take Randy's tapes and go to watch them to see if maybe they can catch the killer or Mickey's tapes, because Mickey was recording. So they took the tapes to see if maybe they can catch the killer on them. And guys, what do you think about this whole set piece? Because it's another standout great one.
It is good.
Yeah. Well, they didn't get very far in those tapes.
No.
You mean when they started making out, or?
Yeah.
They got a little sidetracked.
Yeah, that's hot shit, by the way. They're into each other for sure.
Well, and it's another great Dewey moment because, like, whenever the other TV kicks on, his hand's just firmly planted on her breast.
Yeah. Dewey. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the little cat and mouse that the killers, because that's a great place to do it in, is a studio. You know what I mean? Because of all the curvatures that they have to reflect sound and like the little like chase scenes, and then she gets locked in a room that is soundproof, so the glass is super strong. Yep.
Yeah.
And she has to watch Dewey get killed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thinks he dies. Yeah. Gets stabbed. Yeah.
And, he's like a cat. He's got 9 lives.
He does. But man, that was another one. I was like, no, not Dewey. But Wes Craven just knew. He was like, I can't kill Dewey off, man. I love him too much. I don't want to do one of these without David Arquette. So we got to keep him around.
Yeah. It was like either Dewey or Randy, and it was like, well, I guess Randy.
Yeah, I'm on that camp. I'm good with that. When he gets stabbed, though, it's devastating because the blood splatters up on the glass and shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the cat and mouse in the whole thing, that whole chase scene is, I think, one of the best chase scenes in horror movie history. It's between Gale and the killer. It's so good. It's so suspenseful.
Yeah, and like I think the thing that really makes it great is like what they had to work with, like the natural environment that where they were creates. I think it's really great. And you're right, I agree. It's brilliant.
So, Lydia, Hallie and Sydney's been assigned these police officers. And before we talk about their scene, we have to talk about the fact that Cotton Weary ends up confronting Sydney. And he's trying to just pressure her into doing an interview, but he just comes across too strong. And
desperate.
It paints him as a potential red herring. For sure. Mm-hmm. And the motive makes perfect sense. He had her locked away for a year. Took a year of his life, destroyed his name. She needs to die. Sure. Makes perfect sense, right? So, first of all, I want to ask you guys about the cops. What do you think about these cops?
I don't really think much of them. They're just kind of like chilling in the
Dweebs.
background.
They're
Yeah,
dweebs.
they're just like, yeah.
I loved when Sydney has to like, oh, he's a Capricorn. He's
Yeah,
recently
yeah.
divorced. And then she alludes to the other one being gay. And then in this car scene, he even like blatantly says, "Don't ask, don't tell." Like he
Yeah.
references it
Yeah,
before
yeah.
he gets killed. Yeah.
But before
I
we
didn't
talk
put that
about-
together.
Before we talk about the car scene, I've got to mention the scene in the cafeteria. What do you guys think of the cafeteria scene?
The
Oh,
singing.
The singing. Yeah, the Top Gun homage.
About that. That
Dude,
song was stuck in my head
It gets stuck in your head.
like all night. All night, that song was stuck in my head.
I think I did something like that one time. In a
Why
Taco
does
Bell.
that not surprise me in the slightest?
Derek, why is this always in a Taco Bell that these things are happening?
Because I love Taco Bell, and you have no idea.
I mean, I love Taco Bell, but I don't have like.
Well, that's
told
actually
this?
so. Well, a former fiance of mine and we met at Taco Bell. We worked at Taco Bell together. And I remember I came in one day and I like serenaded her, and a guy she went to high school with was working a shift with her, and he was like, "Yes!" He was pretty excited. She was super embarrassed.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that is
god!
That's the correct
Yeah.
response.
What, being embarrassed?
Yes.
No, this guy. Yes, that's the correct response.
That is the correct response. That's the guy right there. But anyway,
That's
it
hilarious.
was it happened.
I think it's a fun scene. I think it does good in painting, like putting sympathy towards him. Plus,
I don't.
it sets up an obstacle that takes him out of the third act for a bit.
It does, yeah. Lydia, you're gonna have to elaborate on this. What do you mean you didn't?
I thought that was just. I mean, I was like, absolutely not. Don't trust you at all. You're gonna pull something like that when I clearly told you to give me some space, and then you're gonna do that. No. It's not even original. It's from a movie. Like
From Top Gun.
I mean, I'll
got
give you
little-
that.
Top Gun. It's like, yeah, it's like everything about it. I was like, that's such a manipulative thing to do to someone. To like, it's very public, and she had already told him that she needed some distance because she didn't want him to get hurt. And
she thinks he might be
he
a
should
killer.
know, and that too, which is totally valid because that is her past experience. It's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
like irrational for her to think that.
No, it's not. It's not out
And
of the realm
he
of possibility.
kind of comes off a little pushy when she asks him to give her some space. He's like, "Well, do I have any say in this?" It's like, excuse me? Do you own me? No, you don't. I just told you, and that's how it's going to be.
In his defense, he is a college guy, a young college guy that doesn't understand this yet.
The worst kind of guy.
But yeah, I think it's a fun scene. I think it's a fun scene in the movie because it livens up and it shows like it kind of takes a little bit of the red herringness off of Mickey as well because of how much fun he's having and like encouraging it and stuff. You think maybe he's just like a rooting for his best friend.
Yeah, which I did like his little dance moves that he was doing.
Yeah. So let's talk about this this car chase scene. Let's talk about this car scene because it's also a goat, by the way.
Yeah, this was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So Lydia, the pipe through the dude's head is phenomenal.
Does this predate Final Destination 2?
Yeah, it predates Final
It
Destination.
has to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to because I was able to go.
Final
to the
Destination came
movies
out in
and
like 1999, I think, 2000. Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, that was really disgusting. That definitely made me like, ugh, that made me cringe. And I
And
don't get that too often, but I was like, eesh.
the way that
That's
his hands
gory.
like just like kind of like twitching on the gun.
Yeah, and you can hear him like kind of
Mm.
breathing and stuff too. Like it's like,
Gurgling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bad.
It's good stuff. Great one.
2003, by the way.
Is what for first Final Destination?
The second one.
Yeah, the first one came out in 2000, I think, 99 or 2000.
Yeah.
But yeah, this Derek, what do you think about this bit? Ah, you're muted.
Oh, how did that even happen? Derek.
I'm really disappointed in myself right now. An hour and 9 minutes. So there's some really great suspense in this scene, right? Because they're in the back of a police car.
Yeah, love it. And they
At
can't
the end
get
of
out.
it. Yeah, and they have to peel back because luckily that pipe not only dislodged the guy's brain, but also the cage that separated it from the cab. And so they're peeling it back, and they're having to climb over, and she accidentally beeps the horn, and
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I'm so
I
mad
would've-
about the mask thing.
Tried to find a gun and shoot that dude in the head, but anyway.
Yeah, it's one of the most suspenseful scenes in the movie, I think, the car scene. Because just
Mhm.
imagining
Yeah.
yourself in
Yeah.
that situation, the way they both have to climb over him, and you're just waiting for him to like grab him, and he doesn't.
Yeah, you're conditioned to think that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still mad about it. Why didn't she grab that mask off of his head? Or her head?
Well,
She wanted
I mean,
to.
she wanted to. She was going to
No,
go
it was
back and
him.
do it.
It was definitely the guy.
No, it was Mickey.
Oh yeah, he has a cut
Oh,
on his
fuck
head
it
at the
up
end of the
from
movie. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Hallie gets killed, and it's tragic because we knew her so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we would have. It would have been a better reveal probably originally, but so Hallie's dead, and Sydney ends up in the theater where she is held at gunpoint by the killer, who reveals himself to be Mickey. And he starts to explain his motive. Then we get a great fake out moment where he introduces his partner, and Gail
Yeah.
Weathers walks through the door.
Yeah.
And she's like, Gail? And she shakes her head. And then Debbie Salt walks in. And she's like, Mrs. Loomis? Mrs. Loomis? And then we get that great line reading from Oliphant where he goes, Billy's mother.
Yep.
We also have to talk about Derek also had been killed by this point too. Tragically.
Oh yeah, that sucked.
It's sad. Sad. Because he shoots him, and the way she puts her hand over the wound is so sad,
Yeah.
I think.
It was really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Well, and he tries to convince Sid that like they're in cahoots. It's like, I was my partner. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he shoots him.
But he gets
And then he
kidnapped.
says, I never would have hurt you.
Yeah.
Like his last words. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Awful. Awful. Because he was kidnapped by his frat house because he gave away his letters to Sydney.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She was right to shoo him away. And he didn't listen, and he made a big spectacle of it.
Yep. And then he ends up dying. And Mickey,
That's why you don't ever stand up on tables and sing songs to humiliate your girlfriend into loving you.
Right, Derek?
You know, I don't know that
Derek.
those two things are mutually exclusive. I did not. I didn't stand on a table. I just serenaded her from the lobby.
Was there anybody else in the
You did it all
restaurant?
wrong, anyways.
I don't know.
I
It was pretty. It was not full, I can tell you that. But I think there was a couple in the back. There was at least 1 or 2 people in there, other than the staff.
That's too much. That's too much. I'm with Lydia on this one. That's too much. So, anyway, Mrs. Loomis is revealed. We find out that she found out about her son's death, obviously, and she's wanting revenge. So she kills the shit out of Mickey. Well, shoots him several times. Basically because...
We never really went into Mickey's motive.
His motive was to get caught.
Yeah, he wanted to get caught. He wanted the trial because he wanted to foster this notion that cinema creates people like him, which is just crazy. But anyway.
Yeah, so he's a nutter bum, and
yeah,
that's his motive.
Yeah, and he had it all planned out. You know, Johnny Cochran was going to represent him. He's going to have people pay for it because they want their agenda. But anyway.
Yeah, and of course, you know, Mrs. Loomis just used him as a pawn, so she had no more use for him. So she kills him. So she takes him out. He's gone. And, well, she thinks he's gone at least. And then we get the confrontation between... Mickey shoots Gail, and she falls into the orchestra pit. So it's just Sydney and Mrs. Loomis. And Laurie Metcalf, by the way, is great in this bit. She's great as Mrs. Loomis.
She is.
She's great at being unhinged.
And crazy.
And she's hilarious at being unhinged. There's a couple moments where I laugh out loud at her performance. Especially when Cotton comes. She fucking makes me laugh. So Sydney escapes her, and we get like a little mini chase scene, and where she uses the set. There's a great shot in here where she shoots the holes through the door, and she's peeking through the door, and Sydney pops through with the axe. I love that. It's awesome shit. So she starts chopping down lights and sandbags, and the set's falling down on her. And they're kind of at a stalemate, and then Cotton Weary shows up with the gun. He found the other gun that she threw away. And we get this tense standoff where Mrs. Loomis is trying to convince Cotton to let her kill her. And then, you know, he'll be the hero. And there's a bit where the one part that makes me laugh, she's holding Sydney, and she's like, "He sent you to prison for a year. I think that's worth something." And she ducks down behind her. Makes me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah. That got me too. I'm like, what? Like, you're supposed to be hiding behind her, and you just pop out. Like, like that would have been enough time to like, shoot her if you wanted to.
So funny. And so she ends up, so we have the standoff, and Cotton has to choose. What do you guys think of this finale in this setup to get us to this point?
I think it's pretty great. I don't know exactly how I feel about like her like destroying the whole set, like knocking stuff down, because I don't know. I just have a thing about that. I guess I don't know how the set of a theater works fully. So like, that's one thing. But I really like this ending. Like the intensity of like Cotton Weary coming out is like, oh shit, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, and you don't really know because he's played it both ways, so you don't know what he's going to do. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I agree. That standoff, and there's like that awkward pause where he's contemplating what to do, and he's just waiting for Sydney to, I don't know, to say something, and she says the one thing that seals the deal, and I love it.
Yeah, well, because he basically says, "I bet that Diane Sawyer interview is looking pretty good."
Oh yeah, I bet that. Yep.
And she's like, "Done. Consider it done." And he fires, and we don't see the bullet hit. They both fall, so we're kind of left to gives us another moment of suspense before Sydney rises, and we see he shot her right in the neck.
Yeah.
And so I love when Cindy goes up to him and he's like, I want you to know that I'd never hurt you, you know. And he's, Cotton, give me the gun. Oh, yeah, sure. And Gail, of course, is still alive. So she comes up and they both each have their pistols. And it's like, is she dead? Well, they always come back. And Mickey pops up behind him and gets the absolute ever-loving shit shot out of him. And
Yeah,
she
he
looks
does.
at Mrs. Loomis and puts one right in her forehead and says, just in case.
Brutal.
What do
Double
you guys
tap.
think of
Yep.
that bit?
Double tap.
Double tap. I would always double tap in these situations. No question.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like,
The
I
big-
don't know if I would do that in real life, because that is a really intense thing to do. But in her case, I totally get it.
Yeah.
She's a seasoned veteran at this point.
Yeah, she knows
is.
they always come back.
Mickey's rising is a pretty good misdirect because you're expecting her to pop
Mhm.
up, and he pops
Yeah.
up from
Yeah.
behind him. It's a pretty good scare, and then
Yeah.
he gets the shit shot out of him, and then we get the wrap up, and we get character growth from Gale. Joel, or good old Joel's back. He's like, let's do it like the old days, and we find out that Deputy Dewey is still alive. And instead of, continuing on with her story, she throws the mic down and she runs to him and gets in the ambulance with her, and they drive off together, which I think is really nice. And then Sidney directs everybody to Cotton, so he gets what he wanted, his fame, and Sidney
Mhm.
gets what she wants, which is just to be left alone, and walks across by herself with that cool 90s music playing. Great ending. The end's great.
Yep.
I agree.
And that is Scream 2, Electric Boogaloo.
That's not what they call this.
That's not what they call it. Yeah, it's yeah. So, what are your guys' thoughts on Scream 2?
Well, I remember, I'm trying to think of my rating because I know that that's coming up, and I was kind of struggling because I remember that we gave the first Scream a perfect 10.
Yep, we
Am I
sure
right?
did. Yep.
So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, perfect 10. Derek, do you want to rate first?
Oh man. So we can get the argument out of the way. It's not as good as the original. It's that's a contentious point in this movie at some point. Is the sequel better than the original? It's not. This is a really good follow-up to that movie, and it has a lot of really great, I would say, some original things related to it. It's also like replaying some of it as well, and the choices that were made. We even talked about, like, there was an original script that got leaked and it got altered, and what would that have looked like? Could that have been better than the original? Was it better now because that happened? Who knows?
I think so.
Yeah, I do too, actually. I think that I think the way it played out was actually pretty good. Man, this is tough.
Well,
The rating, because it's a really good story. There were some. The other thing is you're really attached to a lot of these characters, right? Like, you feel it when Jamie Foxx, Jamie Kennedy's character dies.
Yeah, Randy.
Jamie Kennedy's character dies. Yeah, Randy, you feel it, like, because this is the second movie, like, you've got an attachment to him, and if they ever kill Sid off, people might walk out. You never know, but or Dewey,
Right.
if they ever kill Dewey for the for the last time he's used up all his lives. But man, I'm gonna give this movie I'm gonna give it
Do it. I'm going to.
I'm gonna give it a 9. I liked this movie. It was a lot of fun. I haven't seen this movie in fucking forever, and I forgot how much I liked it.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I think I'm also going to give this a 9. The because comparing it to the first one, this one's not as scary to me as the first one, which I am notoriously very scared of. So, but I actually enjoyed this watch of this movie enough that I watched the third one with it.
Nice.
So I just came home today and was like, had a little Scream marathon, which I didn't expect. So newfound respect for this franchise.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I'm gonna give it a 9 too. I'm gonna say something that might be crazy, but I think Scream 2 is one of, if not the best, horror sequel of all time.
Wow.
I do. I think it's one of the best follow-ups to, especially to Scream. Like, it's just as good of a follow-up as you could possibly ask for. It has,
Yeah.
all the laughs of
Man.
Scream, the suspense, and but it's just meaner. It's just meaner and a little sleeker. Scream 9 for me. It's fantastic.
Gosh, now I'm gonna spend all night trying to think of horror sequels because you're right. Like a lot of times, especially like the original did so well,
Yeah.
and there was such a small window. It is so easy to just slap some shit together to try
They
to
had
make a
6
profit.
months, by the way.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of these movies go wrong. Is they're just like that. Let's print some money. Who cares what we do? They'll come because it's Scream. And to follow it up, and I think that if that would have happened, I'm sure Wes would have been like, hey, I'm not
Yeah, I think
attaching
I
my
think
name to this.
the reason that it worked out as well as it did is because of the talent involved. Kevin Williamson
You're
wrote
probably
the
right,
script,
yeah.
and then Wes Craven rewrote the script, and it's Wes Craven, so he's like, I'll bet fucking make it
Mhm.
work. This is
It's just
not only is this
clever.
Wes Craven, this is Wes Craven at the height of his powers, the
Yeah.
height of his
Yeah.
career
Well, and
height.
you have very cerebral directors, and some of them in the horror genre. I mean, and in film, in general, there's a lot of really smart people. Like Christopher Nolan's like next level.
Yeah.
But like when you get somebody like Wes Craven who knows how to nurture and like take care of a property and do a film correctly, most of the time you're always going to get great results for sure.
Yeah, Wes Craven.
Yeah.
R.I.P. So that
Yep.
was
Yeah. Just the
Scream.
cleverness is yeah. Sorry. I totally
No, keep
lost
talking.
you.
I'm for it. I love this movie. After I watched it, I was like,
Yeah.
man, I can't wait to talk about it because it's so good. It's just like
Yeah.
it doesn't
It
disappoint.
keeps you on your toes. It keeps you on your toes. They could have done it 100 different ways of who the killer was, and it would have been great, probably every single time. So, and the funny bits of like making fun of the fact that this is a movie, and they're like, like they've made a movie out of it,
Yeah,
so they're kind of
good.
they can talk about it that it is a movie, and this is what's happening. It's pretty clever.
And Wes, the stuff for Stab is just so funny to me. I think it's next level funny. It's so dumb. I love it. It's so dumb. Like you guys said, Luke Wilson, Derek, is so funny. And the fact that they actually got Tori Spelling to play Sydney after that line she says in the first one. Your mom's not dead. She's not lying in a grave somewhere. Stupid. Yeah, stupid. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
His haircut in that is just fucking awesome.
Dude, it's Billy Loomis's hair. Just on Lucas.
Yeah, wig.
So funny. And he's wearing like the white t-shirt too. That's so good.
Yeah.
And I also love, I have to point this out, that at the beginning when we're seeing Stab, that the Casey Becker character, Heather Graham, takes a shower when she did not take a shower at all in real life.
Yeah.
Real life.
Mhm.
But they're like, gotta have her naked. It's so funny. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Classic. So guys, who would Tom Atkins play in Scream?
Oh, get out of here.
Thrill me. Thrill me. Thrill me. through me.
Ah,
I mean, I think he
Oh,
could
man.
play the drama teacher,
He totally
but
could.
David
That would be a
Warner,
really.
but
I
David
loved him
Warner
in
is still
this.
great. Yeah, David
Yeah,
Warner's great.
that's a tough one. Ah,
He could also play the sheriff.
he could. I was thinking that.
Um,
Man, that's a tough. I would say those two are the top in the top of the
Yeah.
running for me
those are
because I
good,
don't know
yeah.
that there's a supporting character that I would want to replace
No, I don't
because they
think
all
so either.
pulled their weight really well.
Yeah. Though, I mean, Sydney would never want to go away if he played Derek.
I was
She'd
going to
say,
That
say
is
that.
true.
Instead, come close to me.
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact about David Warner. You know, he was originally Wes Craven's first choice to play Freddy Krueger.
Really?
Yes.
Did not know
Actually,
that.
there's makeup tests where they sculpted Freddy's face after David Warner. But for several reasons, it didn't work out. And of course, Robert was cast. He needed somebody younger, he felt like, and Robert ended up doing it. But this is him working with David Warner, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, full circle.
All right, guys. It's my pick for next week. And it's time for us to, being in the Halloween season, you know I'm going to do it. You know it's going to happen. You know what I do. We have to take a train back to Haddonfield for the much derided 5th entry in the Halloween saga, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. So you can find that on Shudder. You can also find it on my 4K Blu-ray that I have. So it's streaming though on Shudder, and you can also probably find it on AMC Monster Fest this month. It plays all the time. So that's what we will watch next week. Derek, do you got a story for us besides the Taco Bell one?
Man, I got so many Taco Bell stories. Man. Oh, let's see. There was a drunk guy I know, right? There was a guy who got drunk and fell asleep in the Taco Bell drive-thru while we called the police. And by the time he woke up and got around, they were there. They got him.
Nice.
There was a time that Jamie, it was me, you, your brother, I'm pretty sure, maybe Morecraft. We were all in a car and we went to Taco Bell. Jimmy had to have been there.
Jimmy was there.
So we got a friend, Jimmy. Yeah, he went to Taco Bell for like 100 days straight.
He and my friend Nick, they went and ate hot Taco Bell 100 straight days.
Yep. And so we pulled up there, and there was a super sweet lady. She was older, who used to work there. First off, she didn't take no shit. Her name was Lois. I love Lois. She was awesome. And we pull up there, and I'm like, "Hey, Lois, this is Derek. I didn't want you to think it was anybody weird."
She had no idea what the fuck was going on.
For some, she didn't. But in that same span of time, like we ordered our food and we pulled up to the thing, and this guy like had stepped off of the curb as he was like walking up to Taco Bell and looked at us, the whole car of us, and goes, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, 'cause he
It was
falls.
just a
He
weird
trips.
set
He
of
trips
events.
over
He
yeah,
fell,
he
yeah.
Yeah, he tripped over the curb and he goes, "What the fuck?" And I thought he had seen
Yeah.
a shapeshifter myself. What the fuck? Good old Taco Bell.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
good old Taco
The
Bell.
good old days. Derek has.
Oh
a
man,
way
I got
with-
one for you.
Go ahead.
That happened in a Taco Bell. Like, okay, so my mom was married to this guy, and they got divorced. He was the only person I had ever called dad. Okay? Even my own dad, I referred to his first name. But anyway, that's beside the point. So one day, we're in Taco Bell, and like I'm maybe in my early 20s, maybe I'm like late in high school. We see the guy that my mom was married to, his brother, who was younger. He came in, and he's talking to us, and man, all of a sudden, man, he starts like fucking, he starts beatboxing, dude. for like no reason. Then he like starts rapping to us, and it's like, yeah, man, I'm working on my game. I'm stuff, I'm doing some stuff, and we're like, what? Okay. I just started beatboxing. Started talking to us.
Oh,
We're like, yeah, good luck. What else to tell you, man? I was so embarrassed. I was
now
like,
you know how.
I would never
Now you
even
know
do
how
that
your
at a
ex
Taco
felt.
Bell.
Now you know how your ex felt.
Whatever. I don't care. I don't care about her.
Classic. That is funny.
She wasn't nice.
Derek has a way with. I will say this: Derek has a way with interacting with people in public that.
Not all the time.
So-
Not all the time.
So much so that back in the day when we would go to like rent a movie, it'd be me, Derek, and Joey. We'd go into the video store. Joey would walk around with us to pick the movie, and then when it become time
Yeah,
to
you'd have
pay,
to pick it out.
Joey would leave. He'd go outside because he knew Derek and I would talk to the cashier, and Derek would say something dumb. So it would embarrass Joey so much that he would literally cut out.
I don't know if it was dumb. It was just lighthearted fun. And
Yeah,
Joey was not about fun.
no.
Nope, not about fun at all.
Well, Derek would ask questions, about stuff, and just be, him be Derek, and Joey's just like, "You're a dumbass, Derek." That's what I was always. It's always this dumbass.
You're
and,
so
like,
embarrassing.
shoving. Classic. Joey's better now. I
Yeah.
think he would probably maybe last if we. He would not have made it.
I don't know.
He wouldn't have made it through the Home Depot. He wouldn't have made it, Derek. He just wouldn't have made it.
No.
He would have been.
No. You made it smell like man comment. He would have walked right out.
He probably would have just melted right there.
Hey, you remember that time we made it smell like man in your house? No, Derek. No, I don't.
Classic.
Oh,
And that wraps
man.
This week's edition of Screenplay Movies. Tell us your thoughts on Scream 2. Do you agree with us and think that it is one of the best horror sequels ever made? Comment your favorite scenes down below. And tell us your Taco Bell stories, I guess. That's a thing now. Tell us your favorite Taco Bell.
Yeah, for sure.
You can follow us online at HiLaProductions.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow Derek at DDoggyMaster, Lydia at Lydia Spooky, and me at Racket. Also, here in the next few weeks, we'll have some exciting news on the next project. Derek and I are hard at work on pre-production, and you might even get some casting tidbits coming up. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, for Derek LeMaster and Lydia Judy, I'm Jamie Hiles. Remember, if you're going to scream bloody movies.